Hello, this is Joe P, and you are watching The Music Enthusiast.
Hi, I'm Sarah from Music Enthusiast, and today I'm here with Joe P. How are you?
Good, how are you, Sarah?
So good. I am a new fan, to be honest, but
Oh,
I'm
cool.
a big fan. uh,
Oh, thank you.
how has your day been so far?
It was pretty good. It looks crazy. I'm in like my dark basement. This is usually where I spend. I like doing interviews and stuff down here so that people like, if anyone watches this, like can envision where I make all the music that I make. It's here. It's in this dark, crazy basement. But it's kind of nice. I try to leave it like this, like all dark and stuff to kind of like, I don't know, if I go outside, it's like super bright and crazy and it feels like I've been underground all day. But it's kind of nice for creating stuff. It gets you like removed from reality for a little bit. But I'm in New Jersey right now, in I guess Asbury Park, New Jersey. Yeah.
Awesome. And I mean, creating music in your basement alone for most of the time, like, how do you stay sane?
You don't. I think that's kind of the fun part is that you kind of lose your mind. But like when you're doing something where you're just sitting there and recording your own voice, listening back to it. I mean, think about when most people listen to like a voicemail or something like that, or they hear like a video where they're talking in it and then they're like, oh my God, I hate my voice. Like that's what I do all day, except I've learned to be like, oh, that sounds okay. That's not bad. So like I'm literally just sitting here all day recording stuff and, just trying things. And eventually you just kind of, the world and like your friends like kind of naturally pull you out of it sometimes, especially now that summer's here. It's like summer's like my favorite and least favorite time of the year because as soon as it starts, I can feel it because everyone starts saying like, "Hey, like, what is everyone doing? Let's go somewhere. Let's go out. Let's go to the beach. Let's do this." And like, that's all good, but I don't really love the beach, and I kind of love being here working on stuff. So, but I look crazier than ever. Like in the winter, this doesn't look that crazy. Like it looks pretty normal. Everyone's inside getting cozy anyway. Like it's not a big deal. But in the summer right now where I am, like people are gonna if someone walked down here, they'd be like, "What are you doing? Everyone's at the beach. Like you live in like the perfect beach area ever in New Jersey. Like what are you doing?" Everyone gets all busy and excited during the summer and it's hard. You can't say no a million times. So eventually I end up out hanging out with people, going to the beach. But that's how you stay sane is by when you finally go out with everyone and hang out, you realize like, wow, I've been locked in my basement for a couple days. This is probably a good idea to like do more often. But in the moment, I'm never like aware of that. I'm never able to go like, I should leave. I should like take a break. You know what I mean? So I need people on the outside to like throw a rope down here and pull me out a little bit.
Quite literally locked in your basement with the AC on, I'm assuming. I'm the same way when I'm doing
Yeah,
like submissions. Like I find myself here for hours.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But it's nice. You kind of like remove yourself a little bit, and then you gotta get pulled back out into reality.
And you're very much like a DIY like artist. You make your music videos mostly yourself,
Yeah.
music too. So making music at home, you probably hear like random sounds in your songs. So what is the weirdest sound that you heard and how long did it take you to hear it in your song?
The weirdest sound it was the first thing I ever recorded actually the first thing I ever released as like a solo Joe P artist. It's in the very beginning of this song called Just a Cow. It's like an acoustic song. And I have these like fluorescent lights up there and I just moved into this like house and everything. And all of a sudden, like I heard this fly like while I was recording. And I was like, I'm losing my mind right now. I'm like, I hear a fly. And it was like grossing me out. I was like, where is it coming from? And then I like looked up and saw it in the light and I was like, oh. So I just decided to like lean into it and like record it on purpose. So I literally like held the microphone up to the light. The beginning of that song, it's like you have to kind of have headphones on or like have it kind of loud, but it starts with literally like a guitar and like a fly like flying back and forth from each speaker. But it's like not a sample or anything. It's just like I actually just recorded that straight up and I was like, I might as well like lean into it so at least it doesn't sound like a mistake or something. So the fly was probably the weirdest thing. And I always hear my dog like way after the fact. Like I have headphones on when I'm recording and I'm singing or whatever I'm doing, playing drums, whatever it is. And like you don't actually hear stuff in the moment when you're doing that, but then you listen back or out on Spotify. Like literally, I sometimes don't hear it until it's too late. And then I just hear him like jingling around upstairs, or like he's barking because the mailman walked by. Like, and I'm just like, but I've learned to love all those things. I used to be like, oh, this stinks. Like, I wish I was in like a real studio doing like in a perfect environment. But all those things are kind of what make it. It kind of gives this thing of like, oh, that moment could never happen again. Like that exact moment of him barking or whatever it is. And I feel like it's just a good thing to have going throughout your music or recordings, because it's like this constant reminder that that's how I should treat the actual music. You know, it's like, oh, the way I sang that one line or recorded that guitar part or whatever. If it was like, if it had like a special thing about it, I'm like, I should just use that take, because that's the stuff that like stands out. You know what I mean? Rather than like you sit in a perfect studio all day, like you just want to get it perfect, and you'll sit there forever and try it over and over again to get it right. But yeah, it kind of gives it lends its thing. I used to hate it, and now like when I get the weird barking thing in the background, I'm like, that's the take. I got to use that one. So he kind of decides when it's like done.
Yeah, totally. And like back to Just a Cow, like that sort of like represents the song even more, because when you see cows, there's like a bunch of flies, like
Yeah. Wow. Oh, wow. I never ever even thought of that. That is so true. Wow. All right. I'm going to start telling people I did that on purpose. That's
it
way
was
smarter.
I got a
Hmm.
fly from outside and just like
Yep.
that's it.
Yep. It was all part of it. All about the animals, cows. I saw it. It was great.
So what's your most fondest musical memory?
Oh, wow. Fondest. It's so hard. It's weird because in the moment when you're like playing a show or something, it kind of is like a weird blur where you can't really look back at it and be like, oh, there was this moment. It was more just like the whole night felt good or whatever. But I guess something like it's always like actually, you know what? Recently I went back to where I went to high school, which is in Sparta, New Jersey, like North Jersey. And it was crazy. I went back there and I was like seeing all my teachers and everything. It was like really funny. They had the talent show that night, and these kids were doing one of my songs, and I didn't even know or whatever. And they were like, yeah, like these kids are doing your song tonight. I was like, no way. And they didn't even know I like went to that high school or anything. Like it was just literally so random. And they were like, you should go out and play with them. And I was like, no, 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 no. It's their show. Like it's their moment. Like let them do their thing. But then the kids actually came up to me and were like, hey, it would be so cool if you played with us. And I was like, really? Like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was literally like last week. And I went and I saw they called me on stage like mid them playing or whatever for their last song. They're like, this is Joe P. Like he went to the school. And it was like the coolest thing ever. It was like there's something about that like stage of like music where when you're like when you're like 16 or 15 or whatever the heck you are in high school, like you kind of have this thing where it's all you have to worry about is kind of like yourself, in that way of like you just are focused on like what do you want to do that's fun, like what am I going to do today that's going to be fun. Like sure, you got to like worry about schoolwork or not if you're me when I did that, but like like you kind of have like way less to worry about in your life. So when you see someone playing music when they're in that part of their life, it's so cool because like they're so like just free and just doing everything based on like having fun, and that's it. So like the whole talent show, because they played last, so I watched the whole show, and it was just like it was funny because like your high school talent show, like sure it's not going to be like the best artists in the world, and they're so like their craft is all honed in on, like they haven't practiced that much, or they're just starting to do stuff. So it was seeing everything in its raw form, and it was just purely about like the passion of like doing it for fun. And I was like, had this weird moment where I was like, this is literally what everything's about. Like it's all I'm watching, like in between the dancing person and then the next like singing person or whatever, like it's all awkward. You can like hear like parents in the audio, like it's just like it wasn't like it wasn't like a professional show. But I was like, this is so much better than any professional show you could ever see, because there's no like pretentiousness, there's nothing, there's no drama. It's literally just like some like people just doing the best they can, and there's never going to be anything that beats that. So like I've decided since that night, I was like, everything I do, I'm going to always like refer back to that moment that I noticed that. And then it's like everything has to be this fun. Like as soon as I start getting like an email from my manager and here's the deadline and okay, we're going to do this and there's this money and there's this, I'm just going to be like, as long as the first place I'm coming from is that world, like that's my decision making brain is coming from that experience and like remembering that's what it's all about, like then I'm good. But as soon as I kind of forget that, I'm out. Like I gotta like always remind myself to kind of think back to that. So I guess that, and it's only like a week ago, so a very fresh memory.
That's amazing. I should do like old high school talent shows now just to see how it is.
It's crazy. It blows your mind because you're just like, oh my god, like trying, but they're only trying so hard
There's
to
no like,
do well.
yeah, there's no pressure on them.
No, and they're not trying to be cool. They're not trying to gain followers. They're not trying to like make money. There's nothing to it. It's literally just about the moment in that room of playing. And it's like you just lose that at a certain point because you have to start being competitive about it, or you have to start having a work ethic. You have to start worrying about, well, you have to get this song done by this day because you have to release it. And, there's all these numbers involved. And it's like, I don't know. It's just so funny though, because all that stuff doesn't matter without that foundation, like that important ingredient. Like no one's going to care about, you know, your show or your song or your music video or anything if there isn't some kind of feeling based on that, where it's like, I can believe what you're singing about. I can believe that you just love this. Like that's what we want to see. Everyone in the world wants to see other people just believing in whatever the heck they're doing. So like, but you can get so caught up in like, well, I have to look a certain way. I have to do this. I have to, like, all these decisions you make come from all these weird, wacky places because you get smarter and you like have more experience. So you think you know more. And then it's just going back to that zone and seeing that was just like, I got like leveled out. I was just like, everything I thought I learned and knew now and I have experience or whatever is still whatever, it's important. But like, I was just like, I don't care about any of that because like this is like nothing beats. I'm having more fun. It was the best show I ever played in my life. And it's like in a high school auditorium for like not that many people, and like it felt like it was the biggest stage in the world though. Do it because you love it, like at least try to, because that's the thing. It's of course you have to like grow up and change and all this stuff, and be realistic, but at least try to always remember that stuff, and at least that'll help you at least kind of stay as pure as you can without like the world completely ruining you. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna happen, but like try your best.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice from Joe P. You just released Off My Mind, an acoustic version of it. It is
Yeah.
amazing. It is
Thanks.
so not sad, but sort of sad just because I think it's just because it's an acoustic version.
Yeah.
But it's very demo-ish.
Yeah, definitely. I was like, I put off doing an acoustic version for so long, just because I was like, I was afraid of it, like being the thing people know it by. You know what I mean? Like when you put all the time into like the big real version, like you kind of want to let that be the thing that everyone hears. Personally, I like hearing acoustic versions of songs less clean anyway. You know what I mean? Like I just kind of think that's what people want. I feel like when people say, "Oh, I want the acoustic version," like I think that translates to they want the like raw version of the song. They want the feeling of the song of where it started or whatever. So I think if you do an acoustic version and it's super clean and polished, it's like you kind of defeated the purpose of even making the attempt to create that. So you're better off just kind of like leaning into like, like I just literally did it upstairs in my living room and like, set up a couple microphones, like played it a couple times, whatever, took the best take, and like that's it. So, and at the end it like it sounds like I'm like falling down the stairs, but it's because like I have I use my iPhone as a microphone for like as one of the like few microphones I had happening. So like at the very end, it like all the microphones I'm turning off basically, and like that was the last one. So I'm running down the basement stairs and it just sounds like no, everyone hit me up was like, what is happening at the end? Are you like dying? I was like, no, no, no. I literally was just, it's me like out of breath, like running down the stairs and grabbing my phone and like turning off the voice memo recording. So, but I just love stuff like that because to me, it just kind of, it makes it so that you can believe it. It's like whenever, like the dog thing, like if I hear a dog barking in a recording, like you can believe that it was real rather than like it be perfect and polished. Like you kind of, you could still make something great that way, but it just like I think it's just more fun to lean into the like, you want to make people feel like they're really there. So why wouldn't, you treat it that way, and you want to hear the cars going by in the background or whatever, So yeah, that's what I kind of did for that.
It sort of turns back to just you being such a DIY artist and them like listeners hearing a piece of your life every song you make, because there are literally pieces of your life in every song you make.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, literally in the background you can hear it. It's crazy.
And you also like released some sort of an acoustic video with Gail, when you're at, I forgot the venue, the Mercury Lounge.
Yes, yeah.
So how did you two get in contact, and was this sort of like an on the spot thing, or was it planned?
So I heard that she um in an interview answered a question that was like, what's your favorite song right now or whatever, and she mentioned Off My Mind. And so people were hitting me up saying that, and I was like, oh, no way. So a guy reached out to her. I was like, thank you for like dropping the song name and kind of like spreading awareness about the song itself. um so and then she was like, oh yeah, come play these 2 shows she's playing in New York. She's like, it'd be cool if you like played with me. So I was on those shows with her, and then we kind of, I think it was my idea to be like, what if we just like recorded a version of it? Like, she would sound so good singing it. We could do like a duet version of it, you know what I mean? And just record it at the venue. Originally, it was going to be, so it was planned, but it was originally going to be like kind of more polished and like us on the stage at the venue, and like, like a little like just like more produced or whatever you want to call it. But there was no time. It was like we had to like set up for the show and sound check, and everything is always like, you think you have all the time in the world when you go to a show, and it's always like you're behind because like something happens, something breaks, or like the schedule gets pushed or whatever, someone runs late in traffic, like you just never know. So it was just kind of like the spur of the moment thing is more like where we did it, because we just did it like in the basement of the place, which is fine with me. I'm all good with basements. And but yeah, we just kind of did it in like the green room basement and set up a couple lights, and like we played it like 3 times and just took the best one. And yeah, and it was fun. And like she didn't even know the words that well because it was like we didn't practice it. So she was kind of like, all right, like if she messed up or if I messed up something, like we were like, whatever, that's like part of this. Like let's let it keep going. As long as we get from the beginning to the end of the song and it feels pretty good, let's just roll with it. So it was like pretty nonchalant. So it was planned, but also like we had no practice really. So it was like what you saw was like the practice.
So you're telling me all the beautiful harmonies were not.
Yeah. Yeah. She just went for it. And you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So she just had ideas on the spot, which were so good. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Mhm.
So what is coming next for Joe P? I want to know.
Me too. I don't know. I mean, I just want to release more music. There's a song called Adidas's that's coming out. I don't know when. I mean, it's like I've had the pre-save up forever. I feel so bad, but like the music video is finally just getting done, and the video comes out on the same day as the song. So I'm just waiting for a date. It's going to be July for sure, but like I just want to get the actual date so that people like stop being like, when is it coming out? Um, but yeah, so that's the next song to come out, and then a video with that, and then yeah, hopefully that's what I was literally doing before we did this call. I'm just literally recording like the next bunch of songs to kind of like lay out in a private SoundCloud link that I could listen to and be like, okay, like this one is good, this one's okay, like, and get the top 5 out of that, and maybe the top 3. Like you just kind of keep narrowing stuff down until you have the best kind of little collection of work. So I don't know if it's going to be like an EP or it's going to be like an album. It's going to be one of those 2 things where it's like a 4-song EP, hopefully, or like let's do the whole thing and do the album kind of. I don't know. I'm not really sure, but that, I mean, my goal is to just wake up every day and try to write a good song. So, which is, it's fun because it's like, nothing exists until I kind of like come up with it in my music. So it's kind of weird because I'll come down here and it's just like, okay, this is weird that in the next 2 minutes I could write something that like changes my life. And then, or I could just not write anything and not have a good idea and like go eat a sandwich. It's the weirdest, most wacky thing. You know what I mean? It's not like, I would imagine like if you have like a regular job, it's like, when you're going to get promoted, like, what the week looks like. It's laid out for you in a schedule. Like I literally and just all over the place. It's so crazy. I'll be like in the shower coming up with an idea, and then I go to work on it and I can't get anything. Like it's just complete chaos, completely random. So I realized like working on music to me is just putting yourself in the kind of like the radar of like things, good things can happen. So it's like my job is to come down in the basement and record and whatever I come up with and try to like capture everything I can capture for like 8 hours. And then hopefully I get something good out of it, you know, but it's not like going to the gym where it's like, oh, I'll work out for an hour and then I'll get stronger because I did the exercises. So I get stronger. It would be like going to the gym, working out for an hour and your muscles being like, all right, we'll get bigger today. And then you go the next day and they're like, nah, even though you did the same exact workout, like we're actually going to like just stay the same. And you're like, well, why did I even go to the gym? So that's kind of what it feels like. It feels sometimes when it doesn't go well, it's very like you're just down here and, you know, but I look at it like I had to go through that day of like not writing anything good at all to like get it out of my system. And now the next day, maybe I'll be a little bit closer to like the good moment that's going to happen, you know? So that's my day. My days are just consistent of that, where it's like try things until a little bit of good stuff happens and then mostly bad stuff and a little bit of good. So it's a lot of just like trading off and on. And then at the end of the day, putting together the best of all the good stuff. And hopefully you have something to work with.
Awesome. My last question for you is, who are your favorite artists right now?
My favorite artist as of literally last night, I decided right now, is this band called Idols. And they're just,
I was thinking of that. I was like, I just saw
yeah,
your Instagram story. I was gonna be like,
yeah, literally. Okay, so that's again how my wacky life. I literally in that moment decided like this is the best thing right now. It's so good. I'll always love kind of like the real band and like recording and whatever aspect of like rock music or whatever, because to me it's like I'm like so fascinated by things where it's like Justin Bieber can release a song and it's like hyper produced and sounds gigantic and it sounds so good and like everything's perfect about it. You know, when you listen to a pop song and it's just perfect. It sounds so clean and like otherworldly. It's amazing. And then you listen to like the Pixies or something and it's like it has this thing about it that's so, there's just like four people in a room and they played their instruments and like it doesn't sound as gigantic as like the fake drums and the big pop everything, but like it's almost bigger because it doesn't have that. Like it's like you have to fill in those extra things because if it's a good idea, it's like you can't beat that to me. Like that, like drums, bass, guitar, vocal. Like if those four things are working in that like perfect special way, it's just, I mean, it's why things like a song like Creep or like Where's My Mind, it's why those songs just like never die and they're always bigger. They'll be bigger than anything. Whereas a song like I don't know, what's that like Justin Bieber Kid Leroy song, you know, where it's just like
is it
uh,
like Day or something? Is that
yeah, something like that, like a big pop song and it's on the radio every day and like everywhere you go you hear it in every like convenience store. But there's something about it where I'm like, you probably made more money than some of those big songs, or it's you know like more people know it or whatever. But like, it doesn't seem like the kind of thing that I'll listen to in like 30 years and still be like, this is a great song. It's good for the time, and I get why it's a successful pop song or whatever. But it feels like it's almost like designed to last kind of like, you know, a short amount of time and only be relevant for when it's supposed to be relevant, and then let's get the next one going, you know, because that's what happens, right? After a few weeks you hear a new set of pop songs come into our like mainstream world. But you know, I just, yeah, I'm obsessed with just kind of like that thing where a simple song can just be so good. That's why I think it's cool to listen to like older recordings, because like they didn't have that much like great quality of things, you know what I mean? But then, you know, out of nowhere, like there's like a resurgence of like some old 60s like Beatles song or something weird like that. And it's like, it's interesting because it's like you'd think people would listen to it and be like, no, we're like very used to big, clean, like good sounding stuff now. So like why would I want to listen to this like kind of crappy sounding like audio or whatever you want to call it? But if the song is good and the idea is good, it's like timeless. And I'm just like, I think that's the coolest thing ever, where like when a song like that comes out, it defies every genre. Like no one cares if it's rap or hip hop or like pop or anything. it's just a good song. And I feel like that's the coolest thing in the world. So a band like Idols, like became kind of like really into because they're like a punk band, but like not at all. I just was watching that video that I posted last night of them, and it's like they can do whatever they want. I think that's the coolest thing in the world when a band does that, where it's like they've set it up where they can create anything they want, but it has this feeling where it's like when you listen to their music or their songs, sure, it might not be all over the radio and the most popular thing in the world. Um, but it's like you feel like no one else, none of those other like 4 or 5 people involved in it could make that exact thing. Like no one besides them could do it. You know what I mean? Whereas like there's certain songs and pop songs where you're like, yeah, Justin Bieber could have sang that, or like Ariana Grande could have done it, and like it would have been equally famous or whatever, because like 10 other people wrote it or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and that's cool. And we have some of the greatest songs in the world are those kinds of pop songs. But I just think there's nothing better than the like, like band aspect of things where it's like 4 or 5 people like against the world, just like with their instruments, like let's make a song, like, and it sounds like how they sound when they play, because there's not like 10 producers, like, so yeah, I think Idols is probably my biggest one right now. And then going back, I always listen to this guy Jeff Buckley. You ever heard of him?
I have.
Okay, so Jeff Buckley's really good. I mean, he passed away like when he was super young, but like yeah, he was like from the 90s and everything, and has all these great songs that are just like, it has like a Frank Ocean thing to it where it feels like you don't care that there's not 10 choruses and there's not a hook and there's not like that, you're just like listening from the beginning of the songs to the end, and it like it's this other thing. It's not about like the format or the formula, so yeah, I'm always listening to him because he can just sing with a guitar and it's like enough, you know what I mean? It's like enough to just blow your mind. So yeah, I think that's the main thing I've been into. I'm about to get into the Post Malone record because he's great. And yeah, so that's was my top 3 right now, probably.
Awesome. Those are great. Idols is coming to Montreal for Osheaga, and I'm
No
very excited
way.
to watch their set. Yeah.
That's all. I was like looking at their monthly listeners, and they have like 700,000 on Spotify, and that's it. And I was like,
Wow.
what is happening? It's crazy. Like it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, they should have so many, also Turnstile. They've listened to Turnstile.
I've heard of them. I feel like I should now.
Yeah, they've been around forever, but like out of nowhere are like there's this weird like resurgence where like they're getting big, like bigger than they've ever been. Um, and they released like an album, and it's cool. It's like they're like punk music, but like kind of like Idols, where like you never know what each song is gonna bring. It could be like kind of poppier, like some synths are involved, like, and I think that's just like a big thing right now. Like I think people are into the like no rules, like no genre rules anymore. You know what I mean? Because like we just want to hear a good song and like a good idea, So it's yeah, they're really good. They're pretty similar in that world. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. It was so much fun. We are sadly out of time, but thank you
Oh,
so
it's all good. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This is really good.